I think this was Vegas' first big mistake. Death row was already being investigated by both local and federal agencies. And in fact, the security guys themselves were under investigation for a murder that happened some months earlier. You know, it seems like any information coming from the Compton guys might have been looked at as tainted, and I think maybe the early investigators were skeptical. That's why things move so slow. But Compton PD was not entering the conversation as potentially conflicted informants. They were saying, hey guys, we're cops and ex-cops, to garner that trust. And the badge was their false flag.
Well, I think when you have information like that, that information is power. And you got to understand at this time, you know, Reggie's already manipulating things or kind of position himself to, he's not only already in a good position with Death Row Records, but he's got higher aspirations at Death Row Records. And I think Reggie, he's not the smartest guy in the room, but he's got enough connections and enough people around him where he can make, I think, decisions that are in his best interest, but not maybe everybody else's best interest. And he's starting to pull strings there. And as long as Death Row people and LAPD people have control of this Tupac murder and Las Vegas PD does not, that sits just fine with them.
Violence erupts in the city of Compton. In what they are now calling the 10-day war, local police officials there are alleging the shootings, which led to some 3 deaths, are somehow tied to the recent shooting of rapper Tupac Shakur in Las Vegas days earlier. More on the 11 o'clock news, so stay tuned.
Well, even though Reggie Sr. said it was, quote, coming back to Compton, unquote, there didn't seem to be any rush for payback. Nothing happened for the next 36 hours. It's all about the timing. While Death Row keeps Las Vegas on the Compton narrative merry-go-round, some unnamed, quote-unquote, executive is already leaking the gang narrative to the LA Times. This drops in less than 24 hours, so the Times is getting the news something like 18 hours after the shooting. No one's even close to knowing what happened, and yet the streets stay quiet for 15 hours.
The compelling thing about the Orlando Anderson story is he gets a beat down, immediately retaliates, killing Tupac Shakur. Now, by contrast, it takes a full 36 hours for anyone to retaliate for the shooting of Tupac. So who gets shot? Some random guy named Darnell Brim. What does this have to do with the Tupac shooting? Sure, he's a gang guy. Well, gang guys get shot in Compton all the time. It's as common as a weekday ending in Y.
And for about 10 days, 10 more people are shot and 3 are killed. This is what they were calling a war, but was it really a war?
You know, so obviously from a law enforcement agency looking into this, I mean, all of a sudden there's war in Compton. I mean, you know, basic calls are made, you know.
In 1996, Compton PD, by their own numbers, reported an average of 6 killings a month. And this number is down from the years prior of 94, 95. In this alleged gang retaliation, we're talking about 3 killings in 10 days. To reiterate, 3 killings in 10 days does not constitute a gang war.
Working South Bureau homicide when Russ Toole was there and I was there, it was a record break. I had 325 murders in 1 year.
And it came to the point where Compton had to do something.
Detective Tim Brennan lays the entire Orlando Anderson narrative down at the feet of the Las Vegas Police Department based on the word of some random confidential informants, and we have no idea who these people are.
But was Brennan's affidavit actually true? Or was he trying to make the picture fit the frame?
Brennan knows you're not going to mobilize an army to get Orlando Anderson by himself, so they have to broaden the blame so it looks like a bigger problem.
Oh, yeah. People, you know, embellish in search warrants to get it, you know, so they can get it. It's not, you know, in my experience, it wasn't something that was widely done, but there were times that you'd hear about it was done.
So who are they going to blame? They're going to blame somebody else. But who? In a hurry? They're going to have to come up with something quick. So what they decide to do is to blame someone that can't really be identified. They're going to name some collective. They're going to name some group. They're going to name some gang.
That's what Tim Brennan told me personally. He said, whenever they're ready, tell them that when they're ready to know who did it and who was in the car and all that stuff, tell them we have the evidence. We know who did it. We know exactly who was in that car that night. And he's basically saying, and I don't want to start dissension between two different departments, but he said,
well, it's funny because everything we had came from Tim Brennan.
And they had to get a search warrant, and they couldn't come up with, you know, the probable cause for it. So sometimes it was embellished or, made up.
You have to understand the absurdity of this. The entire reason the narrative was created and drafted in the application for the search warrant the way that it was for one reason and one reason only. And that was to get the attention and the buy-in of the judge who would sign off on it.
Is there some reason why they're doing this? Because, I mean, it may be something other than the truth.